Tens of thousands endured conditions we'd consider criminal today. Leather tanners had some of the foulest smelling jobs in America. Iron workers had some of the hottest. Bayview's mill hands faced temperatures of 160 degrees or more. Packing plant workers spent their days up to their elbows in hog entrails. Machine operators worked within inches of open belt drives that were a constant hazard to life and limb. Children often had full-time jobs by the age of 12. And that wasn't all. As long as immigrants flooded the labor market, employers held all the cards. Industrial workers of the 1880s put in 10 to 12-hour days, 6 days a week, with no thought of vacations and not a dime in fringe benefits. For all the perils, for all the aggravations, workers on the lowest and widest rungs of the ladder could expect to earn no more than $1.25 a day. That translates to a little over $2 an hour in modern terms, without benefits. Workers did not accept their plight without protest. Organized labor established a foothold even before Milwaukee became a city. And a variety of trade unions were formed over the decades. But Milwaukee workers lacked a single organization that was open to everyone, and a single issue that could stir them all to united action. That organization was the Knights of Labor, and that issue was the 8-hour day. The Knights were organized among Philadelphia garment workers in 1869, but they soon became an inclusive national union. The group's stated goal was to secure to the workers the full enjoyment of the wealth they create. In 1884, the National Union issued a call for an 8-hour day without a cut in pay, and Milwaukee, with Chicago, became a national center of the movement. May 1st, 1886 was set as the deadline for adoption of the 8-hour day. Some employers, including the city of Milwaukee, agreed, but most resisted, and the result was a general strike that brought the entire community to a standstill. By the morning of May 3rd, half of Milwaukee's workforce had walked off the job. Soon, only one major industry was still running, the Bayview Rolling Mill. On the morning of May 4th, a group of perhaps 1,000 workers, most of them Polish, gathered at St. Stanislaus Church to march on the mill and shut it down. Bayview's laborers, including a large number of Poles, walked out gladly. But skilled workers remained on the job. A delegation went inside to confer with management. Governor Jeremiah Rusk, in the meantime, had arrived in Milwaukee, and Governor Rusk called out the militia. One detachment was posted at E.P. Alice's Reliance Works, a center of conflict the previous day. Another was sent to quell the disturbance in Bayview. They arrived to a shower of sticks, stones, and dead fowl. Tensions eased somewhat when the rolling mill shut down. The marchers headed home, but they made it clear that they intended to return. On the morning of May 5th, 1886, the Polish workers, now 1,500 strong, regrouped at St. Stanislaus Church to resume their march on the mill. Tensions were near the breaking point. Anxious but determined, the strikers marched 4 abreast behind a banner bearing a clock face set to 8 and the legend 8 hours. The militia was waiting for them. When Governor Rusk was informed by phone that a large crowd was approaching Bayview, he replied, "Very well, sir. Fire on them." One militia captain gave his troops a more specific command.
Pick out your man and kill him.
Onward marched the strikers. At a distance of 200 yards, the militia commander ordered them to halt. They could hardly see the major, much less hear him above their own noise.
Fire!
A reporter on the scene described the reaction.
As if by a common impulse, the crowd fell headlong to the ground, and for a minute it appeared as though nearly all had been killed or wounded by the first discharge. When the troops ceased firing, all who were uninjured turned and ran pell-mell back to the city, leaving 6 dead or dying in the dusty roadway.
The number of confirmed dead reached at least 5, including a 12-year-old schoolboy who was playing hooky, and a retired mill worker who was watching from his backyard. The Bayview incident was the bloodiest labor disturbance in the state's history. Never before had there been such a dramatic uprising against the given economic order. Never before had one group of Milwaukeeans leveled deadly fire at another. The events in Bayview indicated that something was terribly, horribly wrong. The last word belonged to the workers. On May 23rd, less than 3 weeks after the shootings, nearly 5,000 marched through the streets of Milwaukee, determined to show that they would not be bullied into submission. Robert Schilling, a Knights of Labor leader who spoke after the parade, saw the tragedy as a call to political action.
The poor victims are dead and buried. They shall be revenged, not by making blood flow, not through force. The intelligent citizen has a weapon mightier than the ball or the bayonet. The ballot.
Schilling quickly formed the People's Party of Wisconsin, and workers flocked to its banner. In the fall elections of 1886, the Populists captured most county offices, half of Milwaukee's state assembly seats, and a national office as well. A millwright named Henry Smith was the People's Party's candidate for Congress in 1886. Propelled by the votes of his fellow workers, Mr. Smith went to Washington. Labor's victory was short-lived. In the next elections, Republicans and Democrats joined forces against the Populists, turning back the third-party movement. But a warning had been sounded. A precedent had been set. The Bayview incident had stirred Milwaukee's workers to common action that would lead, in time, to a more durable victory. The events of May 5, 1886 are still remembered. Each year, a diverse group of Milwaukeeans gathers in Bayview to recall a time when people marched and people died for a right that we now take for granted, the right to an 8-hour day.
To the point where I'm going to read the names of the people who lost their lives in 1886. Let us compose ourselves. Frank Conkle, Frank Novarchik, John Marsh, Robert Erdman, Johann Zaska, Martin Jakowiak, Michael Lukowski.